no Pookie in the squad for Norwich. Not that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 3-for-1 Sky Fantasy Football podcast deadline stream. We just thought we would jump on live and have a chat. We haven't done any prep for this whatsoever, so hopefully we'll just do something a bit of justice as we look to navigate through till the kickoffs at 3 o'clock. Paul has got the lineups, and it's very hard, Paul, to make any plans at the moment, isn't it? In terms of, because things are just constantly changing. Is Gallagher out?
Yeah, he's not in the squad. So there's a lot of rumours about him having COVID. So it looks like there's some truth behind that.
That's an interesting one, because I was just looking on Gallagher then. So I was just looking at his fixtures just to where the shift on. He's only got 4 fixtures left till overhaul. He'll very likely miss 2 of those. But he is a good captaincy option for the Brighton ones, second but one inning. So basically, you get 3 games out of the 4. So I'd not. What are your just immediate thoughts on Gallagher, Paul?
If he was more expensive, I'd consider moving him on. But at 7.3, I think I just want to retain him.
If it wasn't for the captaincy, would you probably move him on or not?
Possibly. It depends if I needed the extra budget, because he is only 7.3 million as well. It's quite difficult.
Yeah, I was having a look yesterday, and I'm kind of scratching around to find a bit of budget to maybe do kind of Ramsdale to De Gea and things. So I was wondering, we could just maybe chuck him on to someone like, I don't know, Norgard or someone along those lines, and just kind of hopefully get a couple of points, and that releases the budget. But I think I'm just going to leave it. I think I'll leave it because as you said, we can burn 5 or 6 transfers really easily and not really get many extra points at all, can we? So yeah. Good afternoon, everyone who's joined us live. Hopefully everything's working okay. Can you just let us know in the chat if everything's working okay? We've had a couple of technical issues, but if you could, it would be great. Norman Conquest is in the chat. Commander-in-Chief Ian Parrin says, hope you've all had a very merry Boxing Day Eve. Johnny White, hey folks, hope everyone's had a good Christmas, decent game week so far. Glenn, Brownie, and Ryan, all in the chat. Hello, everyone. Glenn Murray says, okay, back in a minute. Not sure what's going on there, but thank you for joining us all. We're just going to have a bit of a chat and answer a few questions. So, Paul, firstly, have you got the lineups there? Are there any surprises for the 3 o'clock games?
Yeah, so there's no Livramento for Southampton, who a few people will still own. Well, he's owned by, I'll just go top 1,000.
No Livramento?
No Livramento, so he's still owned by 7.1%. So 71 managers in the top 1,000 own him. And
he's first on my bench in FPL. He's my only bench player in FPL.
I was starting him in FPL, so yeah. So he's not in the squad. So and Broha's not playing either. But again, he won't be.
Is he in the squad?
Owned Sky asset. He's on the bench.
Okay.
Only 6 managers in the top 1,000 own him. So that's the Southampton team. Looking at the Crystal Palace team, we said earlier there's no Gallagher. Benteke was rumoured to come in and start, but he is only on the bench as well. Gehi and Anderson back together at centre half, which I think bodes well for any Gehi owners.
Yep.
So the Crystal Palace team's Guaita, Ward, Gehi, Anderson, Mitchell, Kouyaté, Hughes, Schlupp, Ayew, Mateta and Edward. For Norwich, there's no... Billy Gilmore plays, but there's no Pookie in the squad either. So that's the big news from there. I can't imagine many of their assets are owned in Sky. Looking at Spurs' team, they're pretty strong. Lucas Moura drops down to the bench. But Kane and Son both play. He'll be the most well-owned within Sky managers. Yeah.
That's interesting as well, because I was looking at him in all formats, and this is the problem with him. You just never know, do you, if you're going to play or not. Interesting. So it's Son, Kane and who, sorry?
And Dele Alli. So I imagine it'll be 3-5. I imagine it'll be 3-5-2 with Ali, Winks and Højbjerg in the middle.
Oh, that's it.
West Ham, Declan Rice is suspended, so Mark Noble plays. I don't know if Antonio owners were hoping that he'd be on penalties, but it looks like Mark Noble would take the penalties if West Ham got one today. But Antonio does play, as does Jared Bowen and Ben Rama, who's still owned by a few Sky Fantasy managers.
King
plays for Watford, as does Dennis. So again, no real surprises there. And just looking at the other teams, let's find out there's only three games on at lunchtime today, isn't there?
Yeah, there's 3 on at 3 o'clock, and then there's obviously the Liverpool match on later. Just touching on Liverpool, I saw that Salah's ownership has gone down from, 99.8% a couple of weeks ago to 72%, was it, Paul?
Yeah, it was 79 yesterday, wasn't it? So you reckon like the 7%-ish? I know that there can be movement between kind of the bottom of the top 1,000 and just outside it, but more managers yesterday would have made the Salah to Ronaldo move.
He looked awful, didn't he? Didn't get a shot bonus or anything. I don't think he had a... Did he have a shot?
He got booked. He got booked as well. So
at the moment, he's not... Well, on Thursday, he's the obvious captain, I suppose, isn't he? Especially if Everton and Newcastle looks like it potentially may be off. I think Everton
and
put in
Sean Dyche has confirmed more COVID cases in the Burnley camp as well. So
won't even need a Thursday captain at this rate.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That was part of the reason, because we were obviously messaging a little bit back and forth yesterday around De Gea. Did you bring De Gea in last night after?
I did, yeah. I looked at all the Man United fixtures and potential fixtures from now until overhaul, and looked at Ramsdale's fixtures and thought to myself, again, going back to what we were chatting about last week,
15
is
points.
do I think that he'll outscore him by 15 points? And my thoughts were he would. So even though he didn't keep a clean sheet yesterday, he picked up 5 points. So that's already 5 of the 15 made up. Did you not make the move? I thought you were going to make the move.
No, because I didn't have the funds. And also I was a bit nervous because they've also got the single game day. Is it Monday, I want to say? Maybe Monday.
Wolves.
But Wolves are currently riddled with COVID as well, aren't they? So potentially United's games could even be off Thursday and Monday, which would be a real kick in the teeth and would really back up their fixtures, wouldn't it? Because they've missed 2 already.
And they're still in Europe as well. So I think the thoughts were that they would likely get games in January because they were playing Europe and there was a rush to get the games played. Whereas for other teams that don't have European commitments, it's a lot easier. Like Spurs, for example. Yeah,
I think my thinking was I wasn't too bothered about missing out on De Gea last night. I think I messed you actually. I did think that Newcastle would score. Obviously, he's very much like Ramsdale because these teams concede, so many shots, and they're both really good shot stoppers. He's always on for saves, isn't he? But I would have done it had I had the money to do it, but I didn't. And I just thought I'm just going to let these couple of fixtures play out. And maybe then I can release funds another way. Just Gallagher, for example. That could, now that we know that Gallagher is out for the next 2 games. I use that as an example. I may not move out Gallagher because of the Brighton sort of captaincy, but that could be an example where I could then shift funds out of him to enable De Gea, while also hopefully we'll get the fixtures by Thursday or next week, and maybe the week after the additional fixtures where we may need another captaincy. So that was my thinking there. I'm happy to lose out on 5 points, or I would have even been happy to kind of miss out on 9 points to get a bit more information. But yeah, it's tough going at the moment, isn't it? Question off Johnny White: what to do with Livramento? Been wanting to get rid for a while. Is this the best time to get shot? I can't remember much. Is he like
6.5? I think.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I noticed Dallo started last night, and he's like 6.6, isn't he? But I didn't think he looked very good. United defensively just not that great anyway. I doubt we get passing and stuff. Is he an option? Do you think?
Moving back to Gehi might be the play. 7.1 or 7.2.
Right.
Passing bonus. You would think he'd pick up passing bonus today against Norwich. Although Norwich have been keeping good possession under Dean Smith, haven't they? I wouldn't move to Dallo, I don't think.
Who are the teams?
But you do get the benefit.
Who are the teams you would target now? So in terms of if people did want to make transfers. I'm kind of asking on behalf of myself as well, right? If people did want to make transfers now, who would be the teams that you'd actually look at and think, I think that they'd be pretty decent for investment up until
Spurs and West Ham.
Spurs and West Ham.
West Ham. And maybe I know you already own King, but King could be a good option as well because there might be a few single game days in there for Watford. So I've got a few. So I've got Salah, so he's going to move on to somebody. And I guess my shopping list just now is Son, either Bowen or Antonio, Laporte if he continues to play for City. That there's no suggestion of why he wouldn't. And I know that they've got less games, but I'd feel confident captaining Laporte in games. And then I don't own Trent either, but I just think with the volume of games for Liverpool and the difficulty of the games and other options to captain. So I was looking, there was a set of fixtures coming up. There's a game day coming up, but it is on, 1 second. It's on Sky Gameweek 23. So on Sunday, the 16th of January, West Ham play Leeds. And I know that a lot of people lost kind of patience with Rafinha, so I've moved Rafinha on. So if you don't own a West Ham asset, Liverpool are at home to Brentford. A lot of people have lost Salah at that point, and he won't be available because of AFCON either. And then Spurs play Arsenal. So I've got Rafinha still, so I do have a captain, but if he weren't to play and the rumours were right about him going to Bayern Munich, then I'd currently be sitting without a captain for that day. So I need to factor that into my decision making about who I bring in. But yeah, I'm targeting Son and Antonio or Bowen and maybe Laporte, and that'll take me to the 20 mark that I was looking for transfer wise.
Same.
But I'm not rushing into any of those decisions. I could move.
Probably.
I could take one of my players out today. I could take Rodri out, or I could take Gallagher out. I've got the money to bring in Bowen if I wanted to do it today. But I think I'm just going to hold off and see how the fixtures pan out.
We did have a question actually off Steve Cheek. Have you revised your thinking regarding number of transfers going left into overhaul, more COVID and more cancellations, or is it now just making sure you have a captaincy each game and get to overhaul with as many as possible?
Yeah, I've got a few fires in my team just now, but I'm being as patient as I think I can be. As I say, Rodri is rumoured to have COVID, although it's never been confirmed by City.
Yeah, it's a funny one, that one.
It's unfit, I think was the term that was used. But if I took him out and then he played again, even against Arsenal at the weekend, even if he missed tomorrow's game and then played against Arsenal at the weekend, I'd be annoyed that I'd made a transfer in taking him out. So I think I'm just holding until the last minute. And then if I do find that I end up on a game day with no captain, then I'll perhaps take out one of those players that hasn't been playing. But I'm 103rd just now. If I can make it to overhaul in kind of the top 150, I think, with 20 transfers, 20 transfers left, I'd be really happy.
Yeah, I'm currently 502nd, I think, and I've got 23. I did Rafinha to Bowen on the weekend. I'm kind of glad I did it. I was kind of regretting it, but all these Rafinha, moving to Bayern things, to me, kind of, I don't know how true it even is, but my thinking, he's obviously missed a couple of games anyway. Bowen had some really nice games. They've got a nice game this afternoon against Watford, and he's starting, so I'm quite excited about that as well. But even if Rafinha is going, even if he goes at the end of January, are they going to play him in between or not? I'm not really sure whether you play a player who you knew was leaving, or would you? It depends on what terms, I suppose. Has he demanded a transfer through, or are they still on really good terms? Would Bayern even say, look, we don't want him to play, we don't want him to risk him getting injury? You just don't know, do you? It's a really tough one.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just, every time I've seen Rafinha play for Leeds, he is the player. Yeah. He is the player that's made like that. He's never down tools, and you wouldn't blame someone in that Leeds team for downing tools, considering how often they're getting battered and getting attacked against. But I think I'm happy that I've held him, but I can understand the logic and why people would have taken him out, including yourself.
Glenn Murray has just put Højbjerg. He's just entered the Sky FF team for the first time ever. He could be a really good, and they should have a lot of rearranged fixtures as well. Spurs, that they could even like one of these rumored doubles. So Spurs could potentially have 5 or 6 games left till the overhaul, where lots of others, just using Gallagher as an example, could only have 2. Maybe or 3 if they have a rearranged game put in as well. The Colonel just asks when is overhaul. It is after the games on the 23rd of January, I believe. So there's not long left. There's only kind of 4 game weeks worth of matches left until the overhaul. So that's why everyone's trying to drag themselves there, kicking and screaming. But obviously with fires all over our team as well. Joseph just asks what's up with Gallagher. He's out with the team. We're not 100% sure, but there's rumours everywhere that he's got COVID, which is very, very likely mean that he'll miss the game on the weekend as well. You would guess, because he played last weekend, didn't he? So if he's got COVID, there's no way he's playing on the weekend. But he is a good captaincy option for, at the moment, the single game day on Friday the 14th of January, Crystal Palace at home to Brighton. So he should be back by then, you would guess, which is probably the reason why people would hold on to it, because his only other game after that, they've got Liverpool in the final set of matches pre-overhaul. But as you say, who's going to really, who are you going to bring in that you're sure is going to massively outscore in that time? It's very hard in these times, isn't it? And I think, I know we talked a bit about this last week. You're absolutely right, but I think that when you're looking at transfers now, it's very easy. Like, well, we've all done it, right? We've all probably used, I would guess, 6 or 7 in the last month, I would say, due to various things. But after overhaul, there's like we're halfway through the season now, but we're actually not in terms of matches. So we've played 19 kind of game weeks. So I think some teams may have played 19 games, and I haven't got it in front of me, but very few, obviously, because of the postponements. But Spurs, for example, I think have only played 16, haven't they? So Spurs have actually got 22 more matches. So we're not halfway for Spurs. We're not halfway for Burnley, for example. We're not halfway for many teams. So even though we're strictly halfway through the calendar, there's still more football than not, to actually be played. And I just think, using Gallagher's example now. So my immediate thinking in previous years would be move Gallagher on to, I don't know, someone else, right? I'm thinking, is that a transfer actually which I'm going to get so many points out of that after overhaul I would be glad I've done it? And the answer is nearly always no, isn't it? Is that your kind of experience, Paul?
Yeah. I think there's a few options here, like moving on to Gehi might be a good play, because you cover yourself for that captaincy off as well, and then you get a couple of game days. And say it as Norwich look really depleted today, so you could potentially see a Crystal Palace clean sheet. So Anderson's back at centre half.
Gehi goal as well.
Gehi goal as well. Yeah, it's shots bonus.
Yeah.
So there is a few things I would consider, but depends how many transfers you've got. If you've got around in the low 20s, which is just above average, and I say this because of the WhatsApp groups I'm in, and it's a common trait of like people that I engage with quite a lot, that's their transfer counts kind of low 20s. I probably wouldn't do it.
No, this is the thing, because we're all, everyone who holds Salah are all going to want to get rid of Salah. So I suppose maybe this was a way of looking at it, is just having a very quick look at who you're going to want to move Salah onto potentially, and if you have got 1 or 2 moves more planned. How much is Gay? 7.1, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 7.1 or 7.2.
So if you're maybe going to be like 0.1 or 0.2 million short of your planned moves, just for example, maybe Gallagher to Gehi is actually a decent move, because you'll get the points, but it also enables you other moves. So if you're doing Salah to Kane, but also want to do, I don't know, Rafinha to Antonio, just as an example, you're going to need a bit of cash there from somewhere, aren't you? So maybe plan 2 or 3 moves in advance and then work it backwards. But I think for me, just looking at Salah, we've had a question in the chat actually around Martin asked, what's the worst and best case scenarios for AFCON players like Salah? Obviously Dennis is going to be another problem in the next week or 2. But what are you playing on Salah at the moment? Obviously, those who own him will very likely, I guess, captain him. today against Leicester, a really good fixture. They then play on Sunday against Chelsea. Just having a quick look. I've got my plan in front of me, but are you planning on captaining him on that Sunday there, Paul, or moving him on for anyone else? Or
I'm planning on captaining him on Sunday, and it really depends on how the rearranged fixtures work. If Spurs get 1 or 2 extra games in there, then I'm going to move him on to either Son or Kane.
Before the Chelsea game, sorry?
No, I'm going to captain him on Chelsea.
Right.
So I won't make a fixture gain at the weekend.
I see what you mean.
And then if Spurs get 1 or 2 extra games in January, then I'll make the move to a Spurs player.
And I think that's likely, isn't it? I think, I suppose this is the thing with Kane and Son, because if you go to Kane or to Son, I suppose whoever you go to, you're going to commit to that move, right? You're not going to then switch around after. But if you go to Kane, I think Salah and Kane are the same money. But if you go to Son, it saves you, what is it, kind of maybe like 1.4, I want to say.
Yeah, Son's he's either 10.5 or 10.6.
And that, and that could be a decision as well, isn't it? In who, if you are planning another transfer. So you've got Dennis, for example.
10.8 Son is, so you save 1.1.
Oh, okay, save 1.1. So if you've got Dennis, suddenly that 5.5 becomes 6.6, which isn't much, but it is a Dallo or a.
Well, you might have money. Well, you might have money in the bank as well.
Yeah, to then. Who are you favouring at the moment, then, Paul, out of Son and Kane?
If I decide that I don't need the money for anything, then I'll be Kane. If I think that the money might come in handy, even if I've not earmarked it for something, then I'll just move it to Son.
Cool. That's, I think that makes sense, because I don't think there's much between them these days. Is like Kane is not the Kane of old, and when you see that Spurs have scored nowadays, I have notifications on my phone, and when Spurs have scored, I'm not surprised nowadays when I see Son instead of Kane. Whereas years ago it was always Kane, wasn't it? So,
and Son's on set pieces and stuff as well. Yeah. So.
Joseph Robinson dodged a lot of COVID bullets actually, and not been using transfers the last couple of game weeks. Green arrows have been keeping me happy. I've been kind of the same. I have used 1 or 2. Like I say, I did Rafinha to Bowen. I did have a small drop last night because I held Ronaldo. But yeah, say hovering somewhere between 400 and 600 for the last few weeks. Haven't used a whole lot of transfers, so I'm reasonably kind of happy. What would you advise people? So I'm putting you on the spot, and in a lot of these, we've done zero prep for this, by the way. I've seen a couple of people in a Hub WhatsApp group and as a people on Twitter who kind of struggled a bit over the last few game weeks, and I've dropped out of the top 1,000 and stuff. What would your advice be to them at the moment? Would it be to try and make 1 or 2 aggressive moves, or would it just be kind of suck it up and
so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. Like there's someone had asked me, I think it was my cousin I was talking about Sky Fantasy Football the other day, and he was like, I didn't see your name in the top 100 leaderboard when I checked recently. We do a format game where you add up all the points from all the different fantasy games and then play against each other. And I was sitting just outside the top 100 when I had been, 60th or 50th a couple of weeks back. But like I said earlier on, as long as I'm not burning transfers, and even if feels like I'm treading water, I'm perfectly fine with that and then be aggressive after the overhaul. Hopefully, a lot of the rising rates of COVID infection starts to come down then. So there's a lot more planning and predictability around fixtures and lineups and teams, etc. And then I think that would be the time that I'd be more aggressive. I'd hate to make a transfer. Like, I'd love to make any transfer just now, and the next game, if they've got COVID, that would be more of a downer than me than getting someone that's a differential using a transfer and getting lucky with a captaincy or something.
I think you're right, and even looking now, at Gallagher to Gehi, which on paper actually looks a pretty decent transfer, and you would guess that he would probably outscore him by 15 over the thing, but then I think in a couple of months' time we'll look back. I always go back to that Antonio versus Norwich match a couple of seasons ago, which just we ran out of transfers. I say ran out. We probably had about 4 transfers left each, or something along those lines, and it was still like a month to go to end the season, or even more.
Yep.
And that Antonio versus Norwich on the Friday night. Now that would have been a transfer which was it's kind of luxury-ish, but it would have been a very aggressive, positive transfer. And that's the kind of thing I always look back to in terms of thinking Gallagher to Gahey, or jumping on some random game day like that where actually you can really, really make a difference to your rank when everyone else is out of transfers, I think. And that's the one I always look back to, because that was, what was that, a 60, 70 point captain? It'd have been even more than that,
60.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, 60. I think it was 60 point captain. I think it was.
Like a 60 point captain is a season changer, right? You think, I'm 60, I'm 60 points behind you now, just for example, and I have been most of the season. And I look, and I'm 500th. You're like a 100th. It's only 60 points. That one decision, that one transfer, could be massive. And I know it's a 4-goal match, right? And they're very kind of few and far between. But even if it's even if it's like 2 goals or 3 goals, or you jump on this team, is the thing I mentioned at the start of the season. The way I'm playing the game more this year is to jump on teams. Like this whole jump on Chelsea thing for me is likely going to take up at least 4 or 5, if not 6 transfers for me in that period. And hopefully even that will be massive, whereas those with less transfers will be forced to maybe either start with them or not be able to go all in on the Chelsea thing. So yeah, prattling now, but it helps. And Ian Power, as usual in the chat, always remember there's no such thing as too many transfers at the end of the season. Yeah, Ian is the absolute master at saving his transfers back, as he did last year, and he ended up finishing. I think Ian, he kind of came from nowhere, didn't he, at the end of last season, ended up finishing 62nd or something, was it, or something along those lines, or 70th. But yeah, for most of the season, he wasn't really anywhere, on our leaderboard, and then he absolutely flew up at the death. So it definitely is worth doing. Norman Conquest says, I got Saka instead of Antonio that year. He got 1 point, lol. That's a tough going there, Norman. Yeah, and this is the thing, I suppose, is also being able to jump on on multiple players. How I play it in Telegraph at the moment is I'm very rarely making one move. I'm kind of waiting and then making 3 moves at the same time to kind of transform my team almost, which is again something you can do in Sky, can't you, by taking advantage of saving money on one and spending it on another and stuff. So Martin, I agree with you guys on the whole, but it is possible not to use transfers when you should, for the sake of holding them. Yeah, I kind of agree, Martin, but I'm not sure. I think it's really important, I think, to remember that your rank at Gameweek 38 is the only one that matters, right? We saw kind of loads of people in October, November saying, "Oh, look, I'm 50th," or "Look, I'm 100th." It means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. You don't win anything, and it's very likely that come the end, some of them won't be there.
Just to the rule of thumb. If you what do you value a transfer as being worth? I think it's worth 15 points. You'd mentioned 20 last week. Do you think that making that move up until overhaul will make you that difference? And if you've got less than the average transfers, I would argue that the transfer is worth more than what we think it's worth. And if you think that you'll make up that difference and what the value of the transfer is worth, then go for it. Definitely not saying don't use transfers. It's, would I want Gallagher back for that captaincy day anyway? And is there a suitable replacement at his price point? And my answer is yes and no, and therefore I don't think it's worth the transfer.
Fucking sensible, Paul. Honestly, I don't know how you do it. FF Louis, what to do with Rodri? Obviously, get to see the team sheet on Wednesday. So if Rodri doesn't start, what do you think there, Paul?
I'm considering doing Rodri to Laporte. Yeah, because he'll get passing bonus against Brentford, and therefore you've already got that base. Obviously, if he starts and if your formation allows you to make that move as well, it doesn't scupper my future plans if I was to do it. Another alternative is Tielemans. I've thought about making that move today. And you'd mentioned someone in the chat earlier done the Højbjerg move. I like all of those moves, and Bowen as well. So there's 4 players that I would consider it worth making the Rodri move for. I've thought about them all myself, and I think that I'd make the Laporte move if he doesn't play tomorrow.
Stones didn't play, did he? Sorry, didn't train yesterday. Was all we knew. I don't know if that means he's out or not, but he didn't train yesterday.
Yeah, and you would think because he didn't play the game, if he'd played the game and didn't train the day after, like Cancelo and Zinchenko both didn't train, but it was just a rest day for them, according to one of the City sources. It's quite good with early team news and kind of inside information at City, that both of them are available for tomorrow's game. Whereas Stones hadn't played and didn't train, the same with Rodri as well. So the suggestion would be that they wouldn't be available.
I think I'm going to wait on Rodri. We get to see the game against the lineup against Arsenal on Saturday. So I think I'll wait. I do think Laporta's got an incredibly good chance. As you say, of a clean sheet and passing and stuff. But I think I'm at a stage now where
if fixtures are announced, there's a good chance Leicester get additional games, and he's at the same price as Tielemans. And I'm not too fussy about missing out on Tielemans against Liverpool. Yeah, he could score, or he could pick up tackling bonus or something like that. But for the points that he could, for his points potential against Liverpool, against the extra information that 4 days or 5 days gives me until Saturday to make a decision, I'm happy to hold off till then.
Maddison's another one. I'm potentially interested. How much is Maddison? I don't know. Is he like
8.8? So he's 0.1 more than Rodri.
A little expensive, but he seems to be like I was Maddison's.
Norwich at the weekend.
What's that? Sorry.
They played Norwich at the weekend.
Yeah, well. I was his biggest fan a couple of seasons ago. When he kind of burst on the scene and stuff. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was awful last year, but at the moment he's so far forward. He's like chief creator at the moment on corners and free kicks. He's unlucky now. Well, he got a goal and assist, didn't he, against Man City? He was unlucky not to get more as well. I thought he looks very. He's definitely coming to my FBL team. I think, yeah, and and if they get the additional fixtures, he could be good as well. I think he's quite a good shout for man of the match as well. I'm not sure if he's won them recently, but I think he's looked very, very, very good. So he's another one I'm looking at. Matt Scarfef says Laporte looks pretty nailed this season, yeah. And couple just talking about. Joseph says I'm opposite to Dan with Vardy. I always seem to have an instinct when he's about to let leash, and I get him in right away. Ings is my bogey man every year. Yeah, whoever starts up front for Leicester against Norwich. We don't get to see the team sheet sadly, but that could be a bit of a massacre the way Norwich are, kind of going at the moment. They don't look good, do they? A couple of other questions. SB asks, is Ramsdale to Lloris worth it? That could be a good shout as well. Or what do you think? If they get the extra fixtures, they look tighter than United as well, I think.
Yep. Yeah, good shout. 7.3 Lloris is. It's only owned by 5 managers in the top 1,000 as well, so nice differential there, and he might come in handy for a captaincy at some point if they do get rearranged games.
And Paul actually asked about Leicester. Paul Sharkey, he'd like if Leicester having a double. I'm considering bringing either Maddison or Tielemans for either Rodri or Rafinha. Is it worth the transfer in this? So, which do you think is best? Yeah. So, would you go for Maddison or Tielemans, Paul?
I like the consistency of Tielemans.
Yeah, he's on pens when Vardy's not there as well, which is quite big.
Yep.
And do you think Rodri or Rafinha is like the priority transfer out?
If you're making the move today, I would take out Rodri. By the weekend, you might have more information on both Rodri and Rafinha. So depending on what comes out, if both were deemed to be playing at the weekend, I probably wouldn't make the move and just stick.
George Parker says he's only got 9 transfers left, but not looking to be really high in the leaderboard. He just wants to bring in. He just wants to win his private league. Is it worth saving transfers or not? He's 40 points clear. 31 people in the league. It's for £400. Would your advice be at the moment, Paul? Would it be to attack before overhaul, or just kind of hold?
If I had Ben Chilwell, I'd make a transfer. If I didn't, I wouldn't make any.
Is that so? You're saying just not make any transfers, right, and get to overhaul.
You're going to need 9 transfers after the break, and it doesn't matter if you're winning your mini league now or not. It's where you finish at the end of the season. And if I had 9 transfers, I wouldn't be using any as kind of aggressive or luxury transfers, and only through necessity. Even if players were out with COVID, I wouldn't be making any transfers just now, because the likelihood is you'll get 1 or 2 games before the overhaul out with those players still anyway.
I must say I agree there, George. I think you've got to hold on and just hope for a bit of luck after overhaul. I think, if you look at the average transfers, it's double that, at the moment. And we talked about looking at the value of a transfer roughly. Even if you put it down to 10 points, if it means that someone with 18 transfers has got kind of 90 points up on you there, and you're 40 ahead. So yeah, if you're uber aggressive now, you could just end up, you could just end up not nowhere come kind of March or April. Interesting from Norman in the chat. Che Adams has tested positive for coronavirus, and Tino Livramento has fluid in his knee, which is why he isn't in today's squad. And Glenn Murray says, "What about the car? Who wants a goat?" Indeed, anyone who listened to last week's podcast will know that. We've gone through all the questions. If anyone else has got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'll stay on for a few more minutes, but with the game starting 20 odd minutes, I want to have a quick go away, look at my other formats as well, and make sure I've got everything set up for the 3 o'clock matches. Paul, have you got anything else you want to talk about? Any player or?
Not really, no. I think good luck to everyone, especially those that kept Salah.
Yes, absolutely. It could be a big evening, couldn't it? In all formats, really, FPL and Sky. Like if Salah scores a couple of goals this evening and Son keeps quiet, I think it's going to be carnage later on on Twitter. It's going to be so funny. Kermit the Winger just quickly asks, "Is it time to ditch Chelsea defence?"
I'd earmarked to get rid of. I've got triple Chelsea defence. I had earmarked to get rid of them for ages, but I'll just keep getting fires elsewhere, and I don't want to use transfers, so I'm just holding.
I think they play Brighton this week, which is their last really good fixture. And after this, they've got is it Liverpool, City, and Spurs, or whatever it is, until overhaul. So it could be tough from here on in. But this is the thing: is if they are good enough to keep a clean sheet, against anyone, aren't they? We know that. Ricky Burns, Salah to Kane. So yeah, we could have mentioned that earlier. Salah to Kane or Son. Spurs are likely to have additional fixtures as well, so that looks like that's going to be a good move, maybe after the weekend. And Ryan, final question: is Regulon a good option? What do you think about that, Paul?
Yeah, I've seen Big Man Backer was doing his stats for. I don't know, this is FPL and this is Sky Chat. He'd been doing his stats for FPL, and he thinks that Regulon's due an absolute haul at some point very, very soon. So, if there was someone that doesn't have the underlying kind of baseline that I like of the passing bonus or tackling bonus often, but I'd be willing to take a punt on another defender. Yeah. Regulon would probably be top of the list I'd be looking at.
Cool. Okay. That is going to do for us, I think, for this afternoon. I'm not going to put this out as a podcast because it was just a kind of ad hoc deadline stream. We'll have a chat, Paul, and see what we can do. Maybe, I don't know, ahead of the weekend or maybe early next week or whatever it's going to be. But if we don't speak before, which we probably won't actually, we hope everyone has a fantastic New Year. Have a great New Year's Day, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. The very, very best of luck. Johnny White says, "Good luck playing for a Salah flop after I got rid of him." And Brownie taking a punt on Bruno. He will miss the game against Burnley. No other cover. Is it a skip? I think at the moment maybe, because they don't look that great, do they?
If your goalie was Ramsdale or Mendy, I would probably make the move to De Gea.
Yeah, good shout. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Norman. We're not going to do all the usual kind of spiel at the end. We hope you've enjoyed, and keep an eye on the @FFH_Sky Twitter handle, and we will give some updates on there if we do manage to go live or do anything before the new year. But very best of luck for this game week. Have an absolutely fantastic new year, and we will speak to you all very soon. Goodbye all.